Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with this week's Wednesday Wisdom guest, but as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, if you've listened to the podcast before, you know these are all great companies that I really recommend you check them out. It's going to make your day, your job a lot easier. So take 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our Wednesday Wisdom guest, then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. You've heard me say before, probably one of the best equipment purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. We use it for home games, of course, but we also use it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. Their products are tremendously versatile and their customer service just outstanding. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. We also want to say thank you to Huddle. You know, as a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, all of our coaches, just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes love the videos. Our parents love the streaming, but there's a whole lot more. Go to huddle.com, join the 100 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com. We'd like to say thanks to Home Campus. Scheduling, rosters, results, facilities, athletic eligibility and clearance. Home Campus does all of these things, does them better, does it faster than the other platforms. You really got to see it to believe it. Go to homecampus.com. Make sure you mention the podcast. That's homecampus.com. We also want to say thanks to Beacon Creative and Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Now, Wall of Fame has been helping schools bring their legacy to life for over a decade, but Beacon Creative takes it to a whole new level. Beacon is a content creation platform. They're going to take your data, your stories, your student athletes, and come up with compelling narratives that you can then post on social media. I want you to reach out to John Townsend, and you can do that. Email him at John, John, at beaconwalloffame.com. Beacon Creative and Wall of Fame. It's a winning team that you need to be a part of. Let's also say thanks to Gipper. Go to Gipper.com and let their team turn you into a social media marketing guru for your school and your athletic department. Your program's doing great things. Don't let it go unnoticed. Gipper's got the tools and the know-how to help you share your all your great accomplishments with your community, with your state, and across the country. Go to Gipper.com to get started. That's Gipper.com. We also want to say thanks to Booster Hub, the #1 Booster Club software program. You know, Booster Hub is going to take a lot of things off your boosters' plate. Sponsorship payments, meal fees, concession sales, all of it goes through their secure system. Volunteer sign up, volunteer changes. Nothing falls through the cracks. How about your communication, your spiritware sales? All of these things allow your boosters to support you more as fans. And isn't that what you want? Give your boosters the platform they deserve. Give them the platform they need. It's boosterhub.com. We want to say thanks to Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. I didn't get my master's through the Ohio program, but my assistant athletic director did, along with thousands of others. And while they were earning their degree, they also completed 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Check out Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. We also want to say thanks to Hometown. Hometown continues to be a leader in our profession with their solutions that include things like, well, digital ticketing, of course, but how about fee-free fundraising, athletic website construction? Their list just goes on and on. Whether you're an athletic director, a principal, even a head coach, Hometown is going to show you how to raise more money, how to save time, and how to bring your community together. You're going to find it all at hometown.com. Check them out today. And we want to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. You know, at my school, we use surveys for everything, for student athletes, for coaches, even for parents. And here's the cool thing. The information that would come back on these surveys, almost always over the top positive. We still got to hear from our squeaky wheel parents, but the surveys allowed us to hear their concerns, usually address them before they turned into something big. But going back to all of that positive data, tremendously valuable, especially when you're visiting with a frustrated parent, maybe your principal, sometimes even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. And don't forget to mention you heard about it on the Educational AD podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wednesday Wisdom on the Educational AD podcast. If you're a regular listener, the name Kristy Bayer is certainly going to be familiar to you. If not, go back and listen to, we've had Kristy on a couple of times. Kristy has an incredible background in athletics. As an athlete, a record-setting athlete, she was also a record-setting head coach. Now she's the director of athletics at Rockhurst University in Kansas City. Very active at the state and at the national level with the NCAA. As I mentioned, we've had her on the podcast a couple times, and it's always a pleasure to bring her back. Kristy Bayer, welcome back to the Educational AD podcast.
Jake, you're too kind. That was a very nice intro.
Okay. I'm available for speaking engagements to bring you out. Again, for our listeners, Kristy has been on the podcast a couple times. A great resource. We'll give out her contact information later so you can add her to your network. She is also, among other things, a sports parent. She's got some kids that are very involved in athletics. Her son is currently a senior student athlete, multi-sport athlete. And I thought it'd be interesting to have Kristy come on and talk a little bit about the recruiting process from her perspective as, let's face it, a national leader, as an AD, as a coach, also as a mom of a prospective student athlete, and just share some of the things that they have gone through so far. Hopefully just add to all of our wisdom here on Wednesday Wisdom. So, Kristy, I'm going to step back, let you kind of, set up, your situation, as a mom of a student athlete. And what are some of the things that you've experienced on this journey so far?
Yeah, thanks, Jake. He's actually only a junior. So he's in
Okay.
2027.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're not getting him out of the house too soon. We want to still keep him close.
Okay.
So yeah, it's when you're on this side of things, you've been through this, you're a quote unquote expert. I give talks on the college recruiting process to different high schools and coaches and prospects. And so, I've got a whole PowerPoint on it. And so, I've been in this game about 20 years, so I like to think I know what I'm talking about. But trying to convince your teenage son to listen to you and that you know what you're talking about was kind of a hurdle at the beginning of it. So, it's just kind of trust me, I know what I'm doing. This is how we need to navigate this. And I think, once we've hit this stage, it's been a couple of years now through this recruiting process, he 100% trusts me. He had a visit with a D1 coach, and the coach asked him, he said, who's going to help you make this decision? And he said, my high school coach and my mom. And I was like, oh, I mean, that just really kind of touched my heart when he said that. But, it's kind of a fine line between guiding them, yet letting them be independent in this process as well. Because I know, and this is to any parent out there, as a college coach, I can tell when you're the one that wrote the email to me. I can tell when you're the one, just from the content, how you compose that email. College coaches want to hear from the actual prospect. They don't want to hear from the parent. And it is always very evident when that happens. So, I try early on in the process, I tried to guide him on what to say, but have him be the one that says it. There was one time I actually responded to a coach on one of his DMs because I have access to all his social accounts, and he got so mad at me, and he was like, "Don't you ever do that again." So I did it. I learned my lesson early on. But he'll seek me out for like what to say and how to say it. And of course, it's good that I have a knowledge base of the recruiting calendars as well. And when coaches can do what. So that's always helpful. But it's been fun. You look at it through a lens of this is my industry. So, when you're on visits, you kind of know how to see through things, what questions to ask, and how to really evaluate, everything regarding the process. We were on one college visit, and the coach was talking. He's like, do any parents have any questions? And he's looking over me like, don't you dare raise your hand and ask a question. But I had a really good question, so I raised my hand, and my question was really good. And the coach was like, "That's a really good question." And I looked at him, and actually all the other parents thought it was a good question as well. So, it does help having that background, but, you do need to, allow them to be independent. And this is any parent, not just a parent that has a college athletics background. Any parent that's going through a child in the recruiting with the recruiting experience needs to let them, kind of take the lead because ultimately that's the person that's going to be going to college there for 4 to 5 years. You're not the one that's going to be on campus. So they need to make sure that they're the ones that it's a good fit for.
Right, absolutely. And I love that you mentioned fit. We talk about that so often. Okay, I have to
Yeah.
ask the question. What was your question that was so good?
Well, we have the 30% rule in football where, you can play in up to 30% of the games and have it not count towards your eligibility. So I asked the coaches how they manage that throughout the season. And I bet none of the other parents knew, how that's managed. So, and even knew anything about it. So,
Mhm. Now, your son, again, sorry about that, he's a junior,
mhm.
but he's a football player. He's also playing basketball. I think I also saw you posted some from a weightlifting meet or something like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
is he just kind of letting it happen? Is he saying, "Hey, I'm football all the way," or
Mhm.
what are you guys looking at right now as the recruiting process unfolds?
Yeah, and I think this is good for parents too, because or even just, coaches as they're helping guide your student athletes. Uh, it's always good. I'm always a big fan of the multi-sport athlete, and to continue to do that. But, there is a time within the high school path where you're like, okay, I can play basketball or I can play baseball, but my focus area is going to be football or whatever sport it is. So that's going to come first on everything. I will participate, but I'm giving up AAU basketball, I'm giving up summer baseball, so there's a time within your high school career in where you have to do it. You have to make that shift.
Right.
And so we decided to make that shift last year where you're still participating and doing all these things, but your focus area needs to be on this. So, I think that's helpful advice to not just parents, but to coaches too.
Yeah. Now, this just popped into my head, and again, I'm much, much older than you. Something that it kind of annoys me. Not going to say it drives me crazy, but it annoys me as a coach, as an AD, as a dad. My kids are in their 30s, and they all did college sports. But when I see on social media the following post, so blessed to receive an offer from XYZ school, and it's, their 22nd or their 30th, or maybe it's their first offer. And I put offer in my air quotes. Okay, you're in the game right now as
Mhm.
a AD. The coaching world, your kids being recruited. Is that, do college coaches want to see that? I know it's, kids are all about, it's about the kid. But what's your opinion on that?
You got to do it. And I'm saying that because it's a PR game, right? So, let's say he posts, for example, about 6 months ago, he got a D1 offer. So he posts that he got this offer, and from there was all these coaches that followed, all these recruiting social media sites that followed. You know, just his uptick in interest went up because he posted that he got that offer. So you have to play the social media game, the PR game, um, other, and it's all, so back when I was coaching, we would have this online questionnaire and you'd fill it out. And one of the things was what other schools are looking at you or what other schools are interested in you. So to me, that was a very valuable line because then I could see kind of who my competition was. And I would always ask too on visits, who else are you looking at? But now that's out there on social. So you can kind of see who you're up against, who your competition is. So for the prospect, it ups your game. So it ups your value, basically. So you have to do it. I know it's kind of cringe a little bit, but it's just all part of
Cringe.
the PR game.
All right. Does it, does the other side, and I get that, and I respect your opinion 100%.
Yeah.
Uh, is there another side to that coin where school X, they've made the offer and they feel pretty good about the offer, and they see that Billy or Mary is, got an offer from another school, maybe in their conference or something? Isn't there like, well, geez, we thought they were going to come to us? Is there a negative side to that, or is that on the coach for taking it negatively?
Yeah, that's just how it is. That's how it's always been. You just didn't see it, right?
Hmm.
They may visit your school and get an offer, and then they may go 60 miles down the road and visit that school and get an offer. That's been going on for years. You just haven't seen it. Now you see it. Um, so now, I mean, I've always been a fan of offer deadlines. For example, when I was coaching, I was like, here is your offer, here is my deadline. If you do not accept it by this time, it goes on to somebody else. And
Right.
so it's kind of on that coach to kind of manage their offers as well.
And to me, that makes perfect sense. Hey, we want
Mhm.
you, okay, but hey, we're trying to build our team. We want you to want
Yeah.
us too. No, that makes
Yes.
great sense. Okay,
Yes.
so your son's currently a junior. What is going to change, if anything, regarding your approach and his approach in the next year to find that perfect fit
Mhm.
academically, sports, etc.
Yeah, I think and this is key for everybody out there going through the process. You need to get a strong evaluation of your talent level because bam, right there, that's the first thing. You are going to waste a lot of time if you're chasing something that is out of reach for you, or you're wasting your time on schools that, you know, may not be a good fit for you. So I always like to ask people, I'm like, okay, this is the huddle. What's your opinion? Obviously I work in the industry, and so I have a lot of coaching friends. So, I think it's good, and this is for everybody, not just my situation, to get a good idea. Now, sometimes with different sports, your physical maturation is different. For example, you know, I was at my son's high school and I'm looking at some of these freshmen and sophomores, and they look so young to me and so little compared to, so for boys in certain sports, um, a later evaluation is going to be you can push that off, but you have certain sports like softball and girls volleyball where you're getting offers, you can kind of assess your talent a little bit earlier on, like your sophomore year, you're early on in your junior year. So I think getting a solid evaluation of your talent, your ability is going to save a lot of waste time. And then from there, just looking at all the variables associated with your college experience. So not just the athletic part, but I think it's really important for you to evaluate everything else regarding the university. So if you pulled out the sports portion of it, would you still like going to school there? So size is a big one. Distance from home. And what I've learned as a college coach is everybody, says, "Oh, I'm okay with going to school far away from my parents. I'm okay going to school far away from home." But then when they actually get there and realize mom and dad aren't going to be there every game, they're not going to be there to take me out to dinner, to do my laundry, or to take me grocery shopping. That just hits a little bit different. So that I know that's a hard thing for a 16 or 17-year-old to grasp at that time, but that's got to be something, parents help with as well. Are you a kid that is that independent where you're okay with going to school halfway across the country? That's a big one. So, size, major, the cost factor is also a really big aspect, and that's probably number one for some parents. But so just kind of looking at the big picture from the institution itself, and then you go on to the athletics part of it. So as we're now looking, you know, me helping my son through this process athletically, we can figure out all that academic stuff. So athletically, as we're looking, you want to, what he wants is he wants to go somewhere where he can contribute, which was a pretty smart thing for a 16-year-old to say, where he can contribute, where there's going to be a good game environment, and where he's going to have a chance to win and be respected by the coaches. So, as you're looking through this process, and this is like the recruiting process in general, I think that a lot of people think kids today want the flash. I think they want, of course, NIL, that's a whole different story, but, the Nike deal, the video boards, the state-of-the-art locker rooms, those things that are extrinsically motivate athletes. People think that's all the athletes want, these prospective athletes want. But truly, when it comes down to it, those are nice and those are nice to have. But what they really want is to feel respected. They want to feel valued. They want a good team culture. They want the experience. So those things that you can't necessarily hold on to or see, the intrinsic aspect of the experience. That is, you have to have that. You can have the other, you can have both, but you have to have that those intrinsic rewards in order to have a successful experience. So as you're going through this recruiting process, talk to, players on the team, spend time with the coaches. Don't just go for one weekend and make your decision. Really, really study, study rosters and retention. Talk to other, club coaches who've had interactions. Have scholarship offers been pulled? Have people been lied to? So really look at those things that you can't see, not the flash, but how the team culture is, or how those coaches make those athletes feel. So that's, for me, as we're going through the process and how I've been on the other side, I think that's what I'm looking for more than do you have new turf?
Yeah, I'm so glad you talked about that. During my 7, 8 years as a college coach, we would talk to the families, we talk to the student athletes, about those things. Hey, we would love to have you come here and be part of our team, but we don't have the major that you're looking for. I don't know if this is going to be the best fit. And just, I'm from Oregon originally, and this, I coached at Missouri Valley College, not too far down the road from you. We recruited tons of kids to come and play football and run track for us at Oregon while I was there. And I would talk to their parents. I said, hey, academically, we're better than anything in Oregon. Athletically, we're the winningest football program in the history of college football. The one thing I can't do is I can't move the campus, to whatever your small town is in Oregon. I can't do that. But hey, it's a 3-hour plane ride from Kansas City back to Portland. So you just try to focus on all those positive things. But we'll do this at the end of the podcast. But I want to do it again, or do it now, so we don't forget. If one of our listeners wants to reach out, pick your brain a little bit more, what's the best way that they can get a hold of Kristy Bayer?
A couple different ways. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can DM me on my Instagram or my Twitter, Coach K Bayer, Bayer, or you just send me an email on the staff directory on the Rockhurst website.
Okay. And Kristy does a great job of social media, some really cool stuff. One thing we haven't really talked about is the college coach. Now, you were very, very successful college volleyball coach. You work with coaches, obviously, in your capacity as the athletic director. What are some tips that you can give our listeners, both ADs and coaches listening, as well as parents who are listening, about, the college coach relationship?
Yeah, as I got older in my career, I was a head coach for 14 years. The latter part of my career, I really just focused on not getting upset and having small things just completely consume me. Because as a coach, you're really a crisis manager. I think I retweeted something on Twitter about that. I mean, all you have to manage people and put out fires. And as an AD, you have to do that. As a coach, you have to do that. So if you were to get upset or have anxiety or overthink things over every single little thing that happens, you would just be miserable. So, from a coaching standpoint at any level, it's stuff's going to come your way. Like if you have a player leave your team, it's a bummer, right? If your best player decides to transfer. But you know what? There's so many good players out there. So, just kind of taking that approach of, okay, here's the problem, solve it, move on, and not let things bog you down. As a D2 coach, I had a lot more things that were in my control as a coach. I couldn't imagine right now, some of the D1 atmosphere and the influence of NIL in the transfer portal and how that just completely impacts your ability to coach and manage your team. I mean, it's just completely gone out the window.
Yeah, you and I were talking off camera. It just seems like there's been an epidemic of, and these are D1 coaches,
Mhm.
press conference meltdowns.
Oh my God.
And as an AD, you're looking at that and you're just going, oh, geez, now here's one more thing I get to deal with tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do you do anything, with your coaches about, public relations, do's and don'ts, that sort of thing?
No, of course, our media is a little bit different, than and some of that media, but it's just about managing your emotions. But there's so many extra variables now. Where before, even at the high D1 level, you could coach, you could prepare, and you can recruit. And if that was in your control for the most part. But now you have, outside influences dictating what you should do. You have the pressure, the power dynamic has shifted, right? So now the players have the control. And the players and the boosters have the control. And so I'm not saying I understand these meltdowns, but I'm saying I see psychologically where this can come from because it's all just out of your control now. And one mess up or one thing happens. I mean, just look at, Jerome Tang from K-State, who was beloved a couple of years ago. And now, I mean, the paranoia, just the absolute paranoia of, of getting pushed out.
Oh,
Or, you have people like Brian Kelly, who again was beloved and then
all right.
try to be pushed out or fired. So I mean, I could go on with so many
No,
examples,
I
but
I was thinking of the first coach you mentioned. I wasn't going to mention names. I love you. You mentioned names. I don't know if Brian Kelly was ever beloved, but no.
well,
On
I'm a Grand Valley grad, so he was definitely beloved at Grand Valley.
okay, okay, there you go.
Mhm.
But you talk about the coach in Kansas. 4 years ago, that viral video of him talking about we want players that want to that they're playing for us because they love our school. That's the kind of kids we want. That they love our school. And now 3, 4 years later, well, these kids have no heart. They don't deserve to play here. Well, who recruited those kids? Okay. I didn't recruit them, and the old, praise in public, correct in
Yeah.
private. I can remember a few times getting blistered in high school and in college, by my coach for something I should have done or didn't do or something. But it was never, in the small town newspaper, the small town radio station. It wasn't all that fun cheer. So
Hmm.
again, yeah, it's passionate. We're all passionate. We all want to win, but goodness gracious, you're getting paid to coach. Okay, you're getting paid
Yeah.
a jillion dollars to coach. Okay,
And I think that's where people have a lot of issue is just the vast amount of money. And so they feel like they can come down hard and, publicly, take down somebody just because of the vast amount of money. I
Hmm.
don't know if there's enough money out there where I am completely on the hot seat and paranoid and have anxiety 24/7. To me, that's just not worth it.
Yeah. Again, it's we have a great job. We love what we do. Nobody's asking me to coach or be an AD at D1, so I'm not putting
Mm.
myself in that position. But hey, our job is a little bit different than let's say the 9 to 5 or a blue collar type of job. We have a fun job. Yeah, there's challenges, but come on, get your act together. We could go down this road in a lot of different ways. Again, what's Brian Kelly doing right now? He's spending a lot of money and not working. Uh, One more
Yeah.
time, Kristy Bayer, if our listeners want to connect with you. And listeners, you have a tremendous resource here, not just in our Spotify archives, but follow Kristy Bayer. How do they get in hold of you, Kristy, and pick your brain?
My Instagram, my ex, Coach K Buyer, or just reach out to me on LinkedIn, and that's Bayer.
Okay. Well, Kristy, thanks again for taking time out of your busy schedule to share with our listeners. All the best as 2026 and the spring sports season continues to
Thank you.
unfold. Hope the sun comes out in Kansas City, and we'll definitely going to get you back on the podcast down the road.
Okay, thank you.
For listeners, we appreciate you tuning in. And just a reminder, we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do Wednesday Wisdom just about every week and just about every day. We try to share stories and best practices from the world of athletics. So please come back and join us again on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Hey, the great Kristy Bayer, Rockhurst University. Before we go, let's talk about some great sponsors that you should definitely be trying out. Let's say thanks to Hometown. Go to hometown.com for more information. Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Athletic surveys. Start taking the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. I want to say thanks to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle. As an AD, we were a Huddle school. Go to huddle.com. Booster Hub. Booster Hub's the #1 booster club software program out there. Give your boosters the platform they need, the platform they deserve. Go to boosterhub.com. Home campus, scheduling, rosters, results, athletic eligibility. You'll find it all at homecampus.com. Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Check out Ohio University. Gipper. Use Gipper.com and turn your school into a social media mecca. Promote your athletes, promote your teams. You'll find it all at Gipper.com. And Beacon Creative and Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Email John Townsend, that's John at beaconwalloffame.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.